ready, Commissioner? The meeting of the Ellis County Board of Commissioners will now come to order. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Bobby, if you could call the roll.
Commissioner Joe LaRue.
Here.
Chair Butch Schleier.
Here.
Commissioner Neil Younger.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay, and there's no changes tonight to the order of business. Prior minutes, Commissioners, did you review the prior minutes? Okay, the minutes stand as submitted. Do I hear a motion for the consent agenda?
Yeah, I'll make a motion for the consent agenda, items A through G.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0. Any issues from persons not on the order of business? Okay. Monthly financial reports. Commissioners, get a chance to review reports?
Yep.
Looks good.
Okay. Any questions, concerns?
No.
Okay. Then our next agenda item is the county fiscal year 23 revenue neutral rate and budget hearing. And I am going to make a motion to open the public hearing for the intention of exceeding the revenue neutral rate and Ellis County budget. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Okay, and I believe there is a Mr. Kennedy wants to speak.
Thank you. Ken Kennedy. I live at 4500 Danby Lane here in Hayes, Kansas. And thank you for allowing me to take a couple minutes and speak with you about the budget. First, before I start, an appreciation. Darren came by my house and brought material to me to help with preparation for this. I talked to Bobby's office a couple of times, and we've never met formally, but we've talked on the phone. She helped me with some information. Her office was very helpful. And the appraiser's office was good to speak with and trying to get some facts and figures together. And it's not only you that I'm speaking with, but I spoke with the city. I was a little late, so I didn't get to speak with the school district. I'll save that for next year. But you are the three biggest taxing entities in the county, of course, and have the lion's share of the levy. Also, I need to start with an apology. I'm not convinced that a budget hearing is the best time to start talking about budget or taxes. You guys have been at it for a number of weeks, probably, discussing the budget. I'm sure Darren's been working on it for a couple of months, and probably more appropriately would be to get in the early stages of budget discussion rather than at the hearing, because things are kind of established and you're getting close to when the notice has to be turned into the clerk's office and so forth. But at any rate, this is a public hearing for it, so I'd just take a few minutes and speak with you. The thing that probably piqued my interest and got me most, I guess you could say, involved at this point, was when I got the notice of revenue neutral and looked at it and I went, wow. You know, you look at the first line and the mill levy flat, pretty much. But you look at the assessed valuations and they're up considerably. Assessed valuations are up 18.4% over the last 2 years. And I went back 2 years. I looked at 2 years. I think that's fairer maybe than 1 year, but it's up considerably more in some cases if you look at 1 year, but it's up 18.4%. And revenue, if you're looking at your budget over 2 years, is going to be up 19.1%. Now, that's $2.7 million. And I'm not clear on your budget. 2 years ago, you had some some balances that were carried down to the bottom of your budget on the nose page, and I'm not sure what those are for, and it doesn't matter. But the point is, it could be even more than that, but it's up $2.7 million in a couple of years. So the budget overall for the county, counting the district, the city, and your county, is up 17%, $5.7 million. That's a big burden on taxpayers, and that's the one reason I came tonight and went to the city last week to speak with them. When you talk about budgeting and you talk about levies and you talk about assessed valuation, there's really three things involved with taxing and spending. One is the levy, one is the assessed valuation, and the other is expenditures of each entity, in this case, the county. You all have control over two of those, basically. The assessed valuation or the appraisals, that's a little less easy for any commission to establish some control over, because that's kind of set by factors that weigh into a lot of things that happens in your community. House prices, sale of homes, those kind of things. Those aren't decisions you can make. So basically, I'll be talking about two. Now, while I don't want to say assessed valuation shouldn't have went up or did go up, I don't know. The appraiser takes care of that. I assume that they're fair. I assume that they evaluate housing sales and so forth, and that's what they went up. But the point is, just because assessed valuations go up does not necessarily mean that you need more revenue. We're not a growing community. And I'll share this because it's important to note. We've grown about 1% to 2%, 1% in residences and 2% in businesses in the last 2 years. So our community, while I wish it were growing, it's not growing that fast as far as taxed structures, so to speak. So there's not I guess the point is there's not a lot of development in the city that causes you to have more roads, and mostly the city is responsible for their city streets, but you do have some roads on the periphery that you take care of. There's not a lot of development in the county as far as infrastructure being built and necessary to go to new businesses. We hope that'll happen, but so far it's not. So maybe revenue doesn't need to go up quite that much, was my point. When you think about taxes and you think about each entity kind of works independently. And I'm not sure how much coordination there is between the two, but when you take all three entities raising their not raising their levy, with the assessed valuation going up on all three entities, it's a big impact on the taxpayers. The other thing that's important to remember is that while businesses are assessed, I think, at 25% of value, of appraised value, they and rental properties have a way of passing on those taxes. Now, they don't all choose to, but they probably don't stay in business long if they don't pass on some expenses. And so they can pass on their tax increase to, guess who? The residents of a community and others who do business with them or others who rent from them. So the point is, the lion's share of any tax increase is borne by the residents of the county, in your case, or our community. And even what might be assessed to businesses is borne by the residents of the county. So I encourage you to think about the negative impact that taxes of that nature and that increase can have on a community. And we all know stories, horror stories across the nation, where communities have taxed themselves almost to oblivion. And you can do that if you're not careful. And it's not your fault, it's not the city's fault, and it's not the school district's fault, but to combine, it becomes a big burden on a community, and it can slow development. It can slow people wanting to move to your community if taxes are too high. Now, I'll be the first to say that there's a whole lot of communities in this state that are higher taxes in this county and this community. I mean, we're not really high compared, especially if you have a community college. I lived in Pratt County, and when you have a community college in your county, it really puts a burden on the community as far as the taxes. And we're fortunate here that our taxes aren't terribly high, but by the same token, a 17, 18, 19% increase in taxes, and that's brought on by the assessed valuation, 17, 18, 19% increase in taxes when inflation's up at, 8.5, roughly, 8.5, and then maybe 2.5, 3 the year before. So maybe inflation's up 11. That might be a little more tax than one would need to do what you have to do as far as maintaining. Now, it's important for me to also say, you never have enough money. Counties never have enough money, school districts never have enough money, and cities never have enough money. But it's always about meeting those needs, those unrealistic needs at times, with limited budget, and that's what you'll always work with. So I encourage you to think about ways to, one, maybe lean towards more revenue neutral, maybe not clear to revenue neutral, but lean towards revenue neutral. And then secondly, look at what realistically you have to do the things that are essential for your community and for the county, and then budget accordingly and see if you can't temper the tax increase slightly. Now, I'm also going to say, I don't expect that to happen tonight. as I said earlier. This is late in the process, very late in the process. If I were doing it properly, and we've not lived here that long, had I not got the revenue neutral sheet, I think maybe your office sent out, I might not have piqued my attention until I got my tax statement. But I did get it, and I looked at it closely. And in the future, I think the process I would use, and I would encourage others, is to talk to Darren when he's getting the budget set up a couple months earlier and say, hey, give these things some thoughts. This would have been a better discussion for he and I to had early on, and then it gives you time to work, the commission to work and establish the budget, maybe using some factors and considering some factors. The big thing right now, and I'm quick to say that I voted for the bond issue. So I'm not here griping about the bond issue. I've been involved in schools. I think good schools, quality schools are critically important to communities. But when you add in the bond issue, the total tax increase is going to be about 28%. And that's a lot. That's a lot in a community. And so that's the points I want to make, is that just encourage you to think about it. Always think about the balance of what's necessary for your community and for the county in your case, and what's affordable by taxpayers, and know that the burden is going to be pretty extensive. I think I was the only one presented at the city commission meeting. I don't know if there'll be others presented in here, but I would guess when people get their tax statements this year, some are going to go, wow, what happened? But some won't realize it for a year because, as I mentioned, the city, many people that escrow their taxes, that increase, if you escrow through a bank, a lot of times that increase in your taxes doesn't reflect for almost a whole year when they re-amortize your note, and then your increase is shown, and you have to make up for last year. So it could have some impact on people even later, the tax increases. So with that, I want to compliment the county. We haven't lived here all this long. We have some involvement in the county and some involvement in the city, and I've been most pleased with both. And I think you're commended, the city should be commended for the care you try to take care of our county and our city both. And the school district, I don't know as much about them yet, but I assume they do the same quality job, so I appreciate that. But again, in summary, as you look at your budget, both this year and especially next year, try to see where you can reduce the burden to some extent on the taxpayer. I appreciate it. Is there any questions I could answer?
Mr. Kennedy, I appreciate your comments. Many of them are very valid. I just want to comment a bit on the county, not the city or the school board. I was seated on this Board of Commissioners in 2019. We made out the 2020 budget. The 2020 budget in real dollars was $1 million less than the budget we had in 2012. Between 2012 and 2020, there were no tax increases from the county. I was working in the county then. We had to cut budgets each and every year. And I believe the year we made the 2020 budget, we were cutting budgets another 1%, 1.5%, whatever we could squeak out of a budget. We cut the commission budget 5%, and we never reinstated that either. So we had a lot of years where there was no tax increases from the county. What that done is left the county in just a dire shape. It was bad. If we wouldn't have got the sales tax passed, we would have probably had layoffs. We might have had to curtail hours. We most probably would have had to close up a portion of our ambulance service. We were getting down to nothing. The sales tax gave us a boost, and it helped. And then as we look at our cash reserves, we had none left. We had a bridge fail this year up on the Saline River, cost us $1 million. In 2020, we wouldn't have had that $1 million to fix it. And so we started putting money away. The last couple of years, we've been putting money into building reserves, road and bridge funds, capital, and we've went down other avenues to try to curtail expenses, such as getting the fleet management program, those kind of things. And now we find ourselves in the situation where we're hit with inflation. And service providers, they're not hesitating to increase their contracts to us. We have to accommodate that. With employment issues, employment is very competitive now. I don't know if people don't want to work, aren't working, can't work, but you have to keep your employees at a certain salary level, benefit level, or they will look somewhere else and probably find it. So that's up against us too. And then another thing, when we talk about county government, each and every department we have in county government, that's an extension of state government. And the state tells us what we're going to do. Here's your services you will provide to the taxpayer. We have to fund those services. And like I say, when you start doing all the adding, it does get expensive. I'm not going to say it isn't. I pay taxes too. I'm looking at about a $900 increase in my tax statement. But I will not make any apology for any budget I signed off on. We needed the revenue. We're starting to bank money. We're just starting to get our feet back under us. And I hope future boards will consider that as they go forward. They could do what past boards done, I guess, and just keep cutting everything till you have nothing left and hope nothing happens. But that doesn't take us very far into the future either. So I just wanted to leave you with those thoughts too.
Thank you, Dan. I understand that, and that's why I said I'm not here asking and demanding and being critical. I'm just sharing with you that taxes are always a fine balance between what you have to have and what the taxpayers can afford. And finding that balance is up to you all. We don't have much control of that. But that revenue neutral sheet just threw up all kinds of red flags, and I knew that would happen with reappraisals.
Sure.
And then the 1 cent sales tax, you mentioned it, that's another burden on the community, and important, and I voted for both of those. But that's an important burden, but it is still another burden on the community. Hopefully, some of that is shared by others outside the community. But again, I think you all do a good job. I think the city does a nice job. I've seen some wonderful things since we moved here. But in the future, I just say, I know it's a heavy weight to carry, is how to balance taxes with revenue, and then revenue with expenditures that are necessary. The other thing I didn't mention that has become big, I don't know about county payrolls so much, but I know city and school district payrolls, they're a large part of your budget. And certainly with what's happened with inflation, staff certainly deserve raises. They have to have raises. You're right. You can't be competitive, nor can they keep the standard of living they have if they don't get decent raises. So that does affect your budget.
Commissioner Neal, you have any questions for Mr. Kennedy?
Yeah, I appreciate you coming and your concerns, and I'm a lifer from here. When everybody that I know heard about tax, everybody's ready for it that I've known, and I know a lot of people, so if that soothes you a little bit, they're all ready, the public's ready for it. So, and like Butch said, you know, we're down, 8, 10 guys at Public Works. We have to have some funding to keep continuing going on and keep everything safe and our community in good shape.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Commissioner Joe?
To echo what the two gentlemen to my left said, I appreciate you coming in and sharing that information with us. You mentioned a lot the property valuation increase. As you started off by acknowledging, that's the one thing out of the three things we really don't have any control over. As far as being revenue neutral, I think overall the department heads did a really great job coming in as close to last year's budget as they could, with the variable of pay being, something that had to be addressed, not just due to inflation, but because we have a lot of great people working for us. And to your earlier point, we want to find a way to keep them working with us so that they can continue to serve you. And you're absolutely right. It's a tightrope walk. It's a balancing act. Overall, though, I think the county employees have done a wonderful job with what we as a commission tasked them to do this budget cycle, as far as making adjustments, trimming things, and adjusting things. And what one person may view as a burden to the taxpayers, another might view as the cost of having quality services for that taxpayer. So ambulances, fire departments, law enforcement services, roads, you know, all of those things have to be paid for, and you're not wrong. You know, this is, we're drifting into some economic conditions that, yeah, that as Butch pointed out, his increase, that could be the difference between some households making it or not. And we appreciate and respect that. But at the same time, we have to make sure that the residents of the county have the services that they need. But again, to your point, and you're not wrong, it's a balancing act, and we need to be very aware of that as we go forward. So thank you very much for coming in this evening.
Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Kennedy. Okay, Commissioners, was there anyone else wanted to speak on the issue? Okay, Commissioners, I'm going to make a motion. It's going to be a roll call vote. I move to approve the proposed budgets and resolution 22-11 for budget year 2023. Commissioner LaRue, how do you vote?
Aye.
Commissioner Younger?
Aye.
And I also vote aye, so the vote passes 3-0. Let's see here, gotta go down to, okay, gotta find my way here. Okay, our next agenda item is the moderate income housing grant. Michael?
Thank you very much for allowing me to visit tonight. Got Doug Williams here with me. So a couple of years ago, well, basically the company that I have here is called Turnkey Property, and we've been in Hayes in property management since 2011. We manage 105 properties, over 270 doors or apartment or homes there. And over the last few years, we've seen quite a need of housing. Just in the last year, I've had several people call me that had received jobs from Fort Hays or Hays Med and needed housing. We didn't have anything that fit their need, and it comes into the moderate income type situation. I had one gentleman that he wanted the position at Hays Med, and he called me for over 3 weeks wondering if anything had come up. He hadn't found anything, and he basically had to turn the job down because nothing fit with him. So that's one of the reasons I'm here tonight. 2 years ago, I purchased some property down by the Washington School, and long-term plans were to build something on that property. And we've looked, because of the flood zone, we had a little bit of an issue down in that area too that we had to work with. And finally, through working with architects and engineers, I feel like we'd like to build 3 buildings down there, a total of 33 apartments. There'd be 27 one-bedroom apartments and 6 two-bedroom apartments. With the flood zone, we've developed a way to build the first level with garages on there. There'd be a total of 13 garages and then 3 levels of apartments over those garages, which bring us where our flood insurance is easy to work with instead of paying $70,000 or $80,000 a year for flood insurance and having no lenders really interested in working with us in that kind of situation. Anyway, we're down to about $4,000 a year for flood insurance. And it's built properly. We're going to have 42 exterior parking spaces. We're modeling it after a place over on 7th and Oak that we built 2 years ago. Same sizes of the apartments and everything, 750 square feet for one-bedroom apartments. They're very nice granite countertops and just extremely nice apartments. What we're seeing after we opened those up, we had grad students, GAs, professors and working class people that went after those, and I haven't had any openings to speak of. If something opens up, those are generally gone within days when we advertise. And very good quality people that are working in, or that are renting those. Part of our issue, though, is we do have an RHID that we worked with through the city and everything, and that is totally approved. The next step was the moderate income housing grant. I would like to apply for $650,000 that they have in the grant program from the Kansas Housing Resource Corporation. Only cities and counties with a population smaller than 60,000 may apply for the grant. Applications must include a resolution from a governing body, and that's why I'm here tonight asking for the support of the county. Technically, the grant would be between the county and the Kansas Housing Resource Corporation. There would be an assumption agreement that basically is assigning the grant responsibilities to me and a personal guarantee from myself to follow through on all the requirements that they have. The application is due at the end of this month. It's very extensive. Not everybody that applies for it for sure will get it. There's a lot of people in the state of Kansas asking for this grant now also. In Ellis County out here, I believe there's maybe one other person that's looking at this, so I think our odds of getting it for the county area are very good. Any questions?
I have a question for you. If you would get these apartments completed, what would you anticipate a two-bedroom apartment would rent for?
You know, we're only going to have 6 two-bedroom apartments the way it's built. I calculated $1,020 for that apartment. That does include internet, electricity, and gas. Water is the only thing that we do split with the, as tenants then. So we do that on other apartments, and that really keeps people a little on tune. If their stool's running or have an issue, they get with us right away, knowing that they're responsible for that water bill. The other ones we have are about $850, the one bedroom.
Okay.
Like that. So really, when I look at, we've got Frontier Apartments and some other places here, when I see what they're talking about for their rents, we're actually going to be cheaper there. But we have found, I've done this long enough and know that, you know, if there's an apartment or some that we have in the downtown, some of the upper level apartments that are really, really nice, that we should be able to get $1,000 fairly easy. We're at $900. Because I find that we get good quality people when we're at a good level in there too, people that stay long-term also.
You mentioned a gentleman applied at the medical center for a position and ultimately didn't accept the position because he couldn't find a rental.
Yes.
Was it because there were none or because the rental units available were substandard?
The substandard situation is a lot of the issue here. We do have some open ones that I know of in town. We don't have any at this time, and generally we don't. One of our things is the standard of keeping it extremely nice. Even we have some older properties, but we've redone those and kept them in great shape. We find at that point when we do that, we have good quality tenants in also.
Sure. Commissioner Neal, do you have any questions or concerns?
I've done a lot of projects with Mike. I see his properties that he has, and everything's very well taken care of and managed in a very orderly fashion. I think this is great, help our community, and just as long as you can get that guy back from Hayes Med, we'll be good.
That's right.
But thank you for doing this, Mike.
Okay, all right.
Commissioner Joe?
Yeah, I'd certainly be supportive of this. I've been a fan of income-appropriate multi-unit housing for, well, as Doug knows, years. Not everybody's ready to jump straight into a house, you know, when they're fresh out of college or trade school. So this gives us the space to maybe capture some of those graduates from Fort Hays and the technical college and keep them here. I know from a previous employer, we also had the same thing that Hayes Med example that you gave had, and, you know, it's frustrating when you find the right person for the job, and it's a good job, and the only piece missing is the housing. And so definitely a great way to help fuel the community's growth.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, it sounds like the commission would be supportive of you, Mike.
Okay, all
So
right.
I guess Darren will prepare the proper paperwork, and well, we'll get the signatures on it.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I might just mention one thing. I'm Doug Williams with Grow Hayes. Mike does really a great job, and he's kind of built a better mousetrap with this bills paid situation, because tenants really like the idea that they know how much it's going to cost. In reference to the Modern Income Housing grants, previously, the Kansas Housing Resource Corporation was given $2 million a year for these grants. Because of some ARPA funds and that kind of thing, they've been given $20 million for this fiscal year and next. So they've opened this up to 4 different periods where people can apply. This first application is due by September 30th, and then they're every 3 months thereafter for the next year. So we'll probably be back with some other applicants, at least I hope so. They will award $30,000 per unit up to a maximum of $650,000. And so that's why Mike is applying for the 650, is that he's got 33 units and he caps out his $30,000 per unit maximum amount. But Dave Van Dorn has also requested through the city. The reason you go through different agencies or organizations, if multiple applications are made to the county or the city, the entity that's submitting the application has to put priority on that application, thus perhaps reducing the likelihood of an award. And so that's why we have said one through the city, one through the county. We feel like that's going to give us greater odds of being approved on some of these. So we badly need the housing. This would be a great addition, and Mike does a terrific job. So your support is greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Doug.
Thanks, Doug.
Just for clarification, Commissioner, with the help of Doug and Michael, they've given us some additional documents for an agreement resolution and the personal agreement with Mr. Graham. We've passed those along to Mr. Jeter, and he'll look at those for his legal review and put them on the agenda item for next week for approval. And then
Sounds good.
once we get them approved, we'll get them passed along to Mr. Graham to proceed.
Okay, thank you, Darren. Okay, our next agenda item is the Public Works tractor motor replacement. Brendan.
Good evening, Commissioners. Brendan McCabe, Public Works Director. So before you tonight is a request for a new motor for our truck 2652. It's low on compression, it's weak, hard to start up, and it struggles to pull our heavier equipment around, especially when we have to go on the interstate system to haul it for repairs. We have a Marmon truck as well that we use for hauling equipment. That one, parts are obsolete, they don't make them anymore, and the frame has started to fail on us. I'm not allowing it to go on the interstate. It's still safe to operate, but I don't want to put it out there. When we talked last year about purchase of 2 dump trucks, we also talked about moving the money that was for the lowboy truck and trailer to purchase those 2 new dump trucks, to move one to a new lowboy trailer and a pulling unit at that time. At this point in time, we looked for used units, got a price back on a used return lease 2020 Kenworth T800 big tractor trailer truck. That would $134,000. 652 has a new transmission in it. It's only about 2 years old. The only issue it has is this weak motor. So we priced out, we have using the best of our funds and trying to get the most value out of our equipment. We felt it was better to put money into this unit than to buy another unit for $70,000 and not know the history. We know every single nut and bolt on this piece of equipment. We know every piece that's been done to it. We've had it since new. And talking with staff, we think it'd be best just to put a new motor in this one so we have a good unit that we can pull stuff throughout the county and on the interstate systems.
So the truck's in good shape, it's just the motor that is needing to be repaired.
Yes, sir.
And even though it's expensive, it's still a considerable savings over buying another truck.
Yes, sir.
So, okay. Commissioner Joe?
Yeah, the money's there to pay for it, and as you point out, it's far better to repair what we have than buy new, so I'd be fine with it.
Okay. Commissioner Neal?
What kind of miles are on there, Brandon?
About 260,000.
Okay, does it have hour meter also, or not?
That one I'm not sure on,
Okay,
but a lot of our equipment, it gets higher mileage because it's used, but that's not a lot for a tractor on interstate. Around town driving and driving down county roads, that's quite a bit, and that's partially why this motor's starting to struggle on us.
and this way we don't have to mess with the DEF either on it, so.
That is another good point on it that we're looking into potentially avoiding more issues with.
Yeah.
Okay. Commissioners, is there a motion on this issue?
Yeah, I'll move to approve the purchase order 7676 to I-70 truck repair for installation of a complete engine for truck number 2-652.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Motion passes 3-0.
Thank you very much. Yes,
What's
sir.
the time frame?
10 weeks at least.
Okay.
We priced out and got quotes for a 3/4 block and a full block. The 3/4 was about an 8-week lead time for about 3/4 of the price. We felt the turbo hadn't been changed. This is the original turbo as well. It was better money now just to do all of that at once instead of doing the 3/4 and then having to go back in a year or two, add those parts in that we chose to try and go without.
Okay.
It does say it up there. It says 10-week lead time.
Okay. I missed that, sorry.
No, that's all right. I couldn't remember if it was on this quote or the original one we had gotten from them.
Okay, Brandon, our next agenda item is the high-risk rural road grant. You're up again.
All righty. Well, this one will be easy. I'm not asking for any money. All I'm asking for is a couple signatures. So the High-Risk Rural Road Grant is a grant program the state's been doing for quite a few years now. It started off with a local road safety plan for counties. Ellis County completed theirs. They were in the first group. So really the second group, there's a pilot group and then the first group. That's what Ellis County was in. To be eligible for a high-risk rural road grant, you had to have completed that project or be in the process of it. We've completed it. We've gotten 6 grants over the past few years for road and safety improvement projects. That's why we have new signs on all the FAS routes. That's why there's usually pretty good paint on them. Those get updated as well. And the no passing zone signs was last year's one. We applied for it this year. This is one of our last free items we can get because any pavement markings or road signage are free to the county, 100% covered by the state. This would be for improving the pavement markings and signage and potentially rumble strips along Old 40 at Cathedral and Piper Avenue and then Walker Avenue, where you have that off alignment intersection. That way people are aware that there's a stop sign. You should stop here because of the off axis and the poor sight lines. So this will be no cost to the county. It's 100% state funded through federal funds. And we've already selected Kirk and Michael. We did that here about a month ago. Commission signed for it.
I guess we can't get this grant if we don't apply for it.
No, we've already applied for it. This is basically, we've chosen Kirk and Michael about a month ago.
Okay, so this
We
is
signed
for
for it. This is saying, the state saying, go ahead, you can do this, and but this is how the
Okay.
cost is split out.
So, to proceed with this, Commissioner Neal?
I'm all for that. I'll support that.
Commissioner Joe?
Well, you had me at no cost to the county
That's-
and no matching funds needed, so.
I don't really have to ask you guys for money, so it's nice when I
Yeah.
get to tell you that, hey, we got money, or this will cost us nothing, or you know what, this costs us $10, but we're only have to pay $1 of
I
it.
feel like you threw this one in here just to even out the other requests.
Trying to.
So,
That scares me because you're going to be coming with something else yet.
I
Yeah.
hope not.
Yeah. But no, I'd like to make the motion to move to accept and sign the FY 2022 KDOT high-risk rural road grant construction engineering agreement for project 26C-5125-01.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Motion passes 3-0.
Thank you very much.
here to the bottom.
As we play the game, can we scroll quicker than Mike can walk up here?
Sorry, I should have walked slower. Take your time.
Yeah, we'll get here someday, Mike.
There it is. Conveniently located on page 139.
Yes. Okay, the next agenda item is the GIS analyst position. Mike?
Good evening, Commissioners. Mike Liker, Ellis County IT Director. I'm back before you again to continue our discussion about GIS analyst position. Last time I spoke with you, you had some questions for me, and I've submitted quite a bit of information that you have before you. I won't go through all of it because there's a lot, but I did summarize, basically answering your 3 questions that were brought up. The first question was regarding GIS and the GIS specialist that we currently employ part-time, or he's a full-time employee of the city, and I pay half of his expenses. The question was, are we truly getting an equal share of his time with the city of Hayes? And as I presented in that fairly lengthy packet there, we are in fact getting an equal share of work from Eamon. As I mentioned, it's not always every hour of every day is split evenly. Sometimes it depends on what's going on in the city or what's going on in the county. I mentioned it's somewhat seasonal. You know, there are times where they have infrastructure projects in the city that kind of take more of his time, and then there are other times where we have appraisals and things like that in the county that take him more towards the county. So overall, it's an even split. I have been very happy with the work that he's produced and the quantity that we're getting. I feel very confident paying 50% of his expenses to have him working for us. The second question that was asked was concerning GPS accuracy. I believe, Commissioner Younger, you asked about that, maybe having some experience to the contrary at your other employment. Eamon was able to find a vendor that guarantees 1 centimeter accuracy. Now, that would mean that we would have to upgrade our GPS equipment, which is aging, is probably close to 8 years old, I think. So with the upgrade of equipment plus going with this vendor, we would get 1 centimeter accuracy, which I don't think you can get much better than that. So I understand your frustration with your other experiences, and that would be frustrating, I'm sure. So the third question that was posed to me was regarding drones and drone piloting. When I mentioned drone technology, that was mostly more just a suggestion of what future technology is coming. We currently don't have any drone projects planned or scheduled. At some point down the road, when drone technology is more affordable, you know, that may be something we look at, but it is not something that I am planning and didn't include it in the job description to be a drone pilot. So I think we'll address that down the road when that comes. So I think those were the questions that were posed to me. Did you have any additional questions for me or anything else you wanted to discuss concerning the position of GIS analyst?
Mike, the only question I have, and I just want your assurance, I've known you for a lot of years. If this position is allowed by the board, we're still going to get the half position we paid for from the city. Is that correct?
That is correct.
We're not going to lose any time with that individual.
Yes, that is correct. What this will do by adding this position, it will allow us to begin to do those projects and tasks and requests that we haven't been able to do. And this person will work under the supervision of the GIS specialist. So absolutely, we will continue to get our 50% of Eamon's time. I'm
Okay.
confident in that.
Commissioner Joe, do you have any questions?
No, just the comment that I appreciate you taking the time to circle back and get us the additional information we requested. So thank you for putting all
Absolutely.
that together.
Okay?
Commissioner Neal, do you have any
I
questions?
have to echo Joe, because I was wondering about the drone thing, so now we got that.
Mhm.
But thank you for doing that.
Absolutely.
I think as we look to the future, we can only anticipate there's going to be more GIS issues arise. It's not going to get less.
That is true.
And it may not be very easy in the future to try to hire a GIS specialist either.
That is also true.
I guess having said that, I will make a motion to approve the reinstatement of the GIS analyst position in the IT department beginning January 3rd, 2023. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Okay, County Administrator report. Darren?
At the last minute, I was thinking about just declining, since we don't get to do that very often, but I did come up with an idea that I would like to report to the commission. Over the last 2 days, Ellis County has hosted a Kansas State Firefighter Association annual conference, or annual regional fire school. We had the fire departments from all over the state attend Friday and Saturday. We had in cooperation with Fort Hays State, had a 9/11 memorial stair climb on Saturday morning. I wasn't able to attend. We were setting up the schools and the cars and everything and prepping for burns, but they had a couple hundred people out there, and then we had about 60 to 70 in attendance at the school both days. And about 20 of those each day were our Ellis County firefighters. So it was a great attendance. Appreciate the support that we got from the school district, 489, and several vendors around town that helped us. Reliable HVAC donated some equipment. Hayes Bobcat gave us some equipment as well to crunch up and move over cars. And school district also gave us some property over by Laughlin School that we did some controlled burning on, and it was well attended. And Neil always says it, but I'll take the opportunity to thank all of them for what they do for our service. And it was heard quite a bit over the last 2 days that this stair climb really brought back memories from 21 years ago, what happened yesterday. So just thought I'd bring that up, and that's all I have for tonight.
Okay, thank you, Darren. Commissioner Joe? Commissioner Neal?
Yes, I met with the city mayor, and he pretty much thanked all of us for the letter for the, hopefully upgrade on 13th Street. And then I also did go to the drug court again, and we graduated 2 more people in Ellis County here for that makes 5 this year, which is good. They've got jobs and get their life back together. And also went to the Northwest Kansas Correction and the juvenile meeting last week also. So that's all I have.
Okay, and I have no report. If there's no other business, this meeting will adjourn at 5:49.